Thank you very much. And I would begin by just saying thank you, Ms. Mendoza, for the invitation and also for your wonderful years of service here at Northside ISD and for the work that you and your staff do every day to ensure that we have a very well-educated San Antonio. And thank you all for having me at Coons Elementary School. Are y'all ready for a new school year? Of course, the boss is right there, so you better be enthusiastic. I know how that goes. Well, and I also want to thank Elaine for the invitation as well. You know, Elaine is a superstar here in the community on the Texas A&M Board of Regents, a successful businesswoman, someone who has made so many folks in San Antonio very proud. And I had the pleasure of working with you, of course, Elaine, on the SA 2020 effort and on other things, and you're doing your part, more than doing your part, to ensure that we have a successful San Antonio. Well, it's that time of year again, the time of year that you guys know very, very well, the start of another academic year. I know it well, too. My wife is a teacher in the Northside Independent School District. She's a math specialist at Ward Elementary School. And so last week, I know they started part of their in-service, and this week started it in full. And I understand that the students start next Monday. I'm sure y'all have an X on your calendar. I know that she does. And so it's a great time, about as good a time as any, to reflect a little bit on where we're going as a community with respect to education. First, let me say that about 9 months ago, we had an opportunity to kick off the SA 2020 process, which I hope some of you all had the opportunity either to attend in terms of one of the 5 public sessions that we had, or to catch on the internet or on television, or submit your information in terms of the survey, your views. Overall, we had more than 5,000 folks who participated in SA 2020. And the basic idea behind SA 2020 was to ask folks in San Antonio, what kind of city do we want to be on Friday, September 25th, 2020? That's a real date and a real day, and that's exactly 10 years after we kicked it off on the 25th of September of last year. And after more than 5,000 folks had their say, as part of this effort, there was one thing that stood out more than anything else in terms of what San Antonio said that they wanted, and that was a more well-educated San Antonio. In fact, as we distilled everyone's perspectives as part of that SA 2020 effort, we determined, really I determined, that what I got most out of it was a singular vision for the city, which was that we want to create a brain power community that is the liveliest city in the United States. That begins with a group of well-educated young people who are basically able to take on the jobs of the 21st century, to master the education system and then go on, graduate from college, and be well-positioned to get a good job in the future. In a city that is safe, that is vibrant, that's exciting, that's culturally rich, it's the kind of place that people want to live, people want to work in, people want to visit. And I believe that San Antonio is well on its way to achieving that, but we also still have a long way to go. I'll say that part of that vision for me really is animated by my own life. I feel very blessed that I had the opportunity to get a good public education. My father was a teacher in Edgewood for 26 years and a teacher overall for 31 years. And my brother Joaquin and I grew up in the Edgewood School District and then in the NSID. And we graduated from Jefferson in 1992. Was there anybody from Jefferson here? One person? 2 people? All right. Anybody from Edison, the rival? Good, good. We're ahead. And after graduating, we had the opportunity to go on to college and to law school and to come back and to reach the American dream that we saw for ourselves, which was to become attorneys and to become elected officials. I know that that might sound like a nightmare to some people, a lawyer and a politician, but for us, we look forward to public service and also to the practice of law. And that's basically what I want for every single young person in our city. They have the knowledge and the credentials and the opportunity to accomplish what they want in life. And I know that as teachers, and perhaps even more importantly as parents and grandparents, that's exactly what y'all want for our young people in San Antonio as well. And so over these last couple of years, we've focused as much energy and attention as we can on trying to create a cohesive education agenda for San Antonio. Now you might ask, well, what in the world is the mayor doing trying to create an education agenda for San Antonio? In fact, as you all know, we have 15 independent school districts that work in our city. Northside is the largest one. And the answer to that is that the key to our future, the key to becoming the kind of successful city that we want, really starts with education. So we've partnered with our school districts, things like a Promise neighborhood on the east side, working with Trinity University, the NISD, via the city and others, to invest in our older neighborhoods on the east side and also try and lift up the schools in the feeder pattern of Wheatley Middle School to try and get past the chicken and egg problem that often exists, that people don't want to move in, young couples with children don't want to move into some of these older neighborhoods because the schools are falling apart or not up to par. And at the same time, it's difficult to get the schools up to par if the neighborhood is getting more and more dilapidated, more and more people are moving out. The only folks that live there, it's not meant as an offense, but the folks who live there are older folks who just never moved out. Their children don't want to live in that neighborhood. We also started Cafe College to create one place where folks, no matter if they go to public school, private school, they're homeschooled, no matter if their parents make a lot of money, don't make any money at all, they can go to get the information and the resources that they need to get great advice on college and financial aid. We found that our student-to-counselor ratio is approaching 400 to 1 in our city, and that oftentimes our high school counselors are besieged by paperwork and by other requirements that make it tough for them to give as much individual attention as they would like to our students. And so Cafe College was a way to say, when a student has it in his or her mind that they're interested or curious about college, that is where you go. There are no bones about it, no questions. That's where you can go to get information for free. And it's been a great success. We've served more than 5,000 individual students, less than a year of operation, and we're actually opening up an expansion of Cafe College in late August. And this expansion will provide more SAT and ACT training courses and other resources that will be great in giving folks a leg up as they apply for college. And I hope that folks here will recommend, although I know you all are in elementary school, but when you come across students who are interested in college, recommend Cafe College to them. We also have partnered with our school districts in efforts that seem very basic, but are actually, I think, are very important. For instance, with Dr. Folks and the other superintendents on standardizing the data that we collect on where our students go after high school, or if they don't finish high school, where they go on to, so that we can get a better sense of how successful our schools are being, and find mentors for folks after they've graduated from high school and gone on to college, and connect them in a stronger way with the ones who are still in the system, so that we create a community of role models for our young people in the school system. And those are just some of the things that we're doing to try and help out our schools. I'll also say that I've gotten involved in a couple of board races, school board races, and have both been praised for that and also criticized for getting involved in school board politics. But for me, that's motivated by a realization that our school board members are in charge of education policy for thousands and thousands of students, and often have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of a budget in front of them that they need to make prudent decisions about. And in San Antonio, with 15 independent school districts, unfortunately, it's often been in the school districts in the urban core of our city where the students need sage leadership the most, that sometimes they've gotten it the least. And we have to ensure that those policymakers are very effective policymakers in their role. A lot of times that's the case. We have great school board members all over the city. Sometimes that's not. And as mayor, I've said that I'm not going to be afraid to put my political capital on the line when I believe that it's warranted to try and make a difference. Not everybody's always going to agree with you when you do make a political decision. That's the nature of politics. But I hope that folks do see that that's meant to try to prod the system, prod our school districts to do a better job. I believe that for San Antonio, that we really have two paths that we can take. If we focus on education, if we do our best every single day to make a difference in the lives of young people, if as educators we're able to rise above what I know are often the petty politics inside a school, plus the fatigue of the day-to-day work. I was once a permanent substitute teacher in between college and law school. When I turned 22, I went back to Jefferson High School, my old high school, and I worked for a semester. One of the teachers there had a nervous breakdown. And so the principal asked me, well, I was just subbing at the time, asked me if I would take on 3 classes, mostly of 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. One class had 39 people, one had 38, and one had 37. And let me just tell you that if I didn't have enough respect for the work that teachers do before I got into the classroom, I certainly had that respect afterward. By the 3rd day, I turned around in one of the classes to write something on the blackboard, and somebody threw a paper ball at me. And I didn't know whether to turn around and try and figure out who had done that, or to ignore it, like it never happened. I learned that there's a lot more to being a teacher than just trying to be a student's friend. I learned that there's a lot more than just articulating a lesson, that classroom management, that understanding the individual needs of a student, working well with colleagues, and ensuring that you have very strong support from the administration is very important in being effective in ensuring that each student gets the most out of the classroom experience. I know that as well as one who counts myself as very blessed for the work that many, many teachers did in my life to make my own success possible. In fact, the moment that I remember the most in my educational journey was in the 1st grade. I had a teacher named Miss Pigeon. I used to go to Holsher Elementary School in Edgewood. And we had a particular assignment, and I remember her saying after class, as we were coming out, that asked me if I could do up to page 57 because she thought that I could handle the work. And so she asked me to do up to page 57, which was more than the rest of the class that day. And that made me feel great. It made me feel like I was special. And I came back the next day, and I had done through page 57. And then she gave me more work, and I wondered whether I should have done it or not. But it really made me feel, as a young person, as though I was different, and that I had a brain, and that I could accomplish. It put me on the right path, the right trajectory, to take pride in doing the work, in studying, and taking the time to read, to learn, to get fun out of it, because I was investing myself in it, and my teacher had given me the stamp of approval. And I still remember that moment all these years later. And the fact is, I know, my head is not in the clouds. I know that oftentimes it seems like those moments are very few and far between in the profession. But I can tell you that those moments are there for the taking, that you can make a profound difference. In fact, I have no doubt that you already have made a profound difference in little moments like that and bigger moments in the profession. And so I wanted to come today, as y'all start off another school year, to thank you for the work that you do, to urge you on as part of the challenge of creating a brain power community in San Antonio, and to say that you never know when one of those moments is going to come. Thank you.